I'm David Sandbeck, running for Congress in Minnesota's 4th Congressional District. We need a competitive electoral process. Let's begin by looking at how a two-party monopoly controls the U.S. political system and what it costs. Let's start with the reality that no Western democracy presents the kind of barriers to voting generally and to third parties or independent candidates running for elective office, as do the various states of the United States. Not surprisingly, no other Western country is so completely dominated by two major parties, which predictably, given where the money and power comes from for their campaigns, are both serving the interests of corporatism. Candidates' rights are linked to voting rights. Very limited candidate choice under a two-party tyranny that gerrymanders electoral districts so that they will be subject to the domination by one or the other major party depreciates voter rights. A wider range of candidates would give voters more voice and choice. The existing system is perverse. Most voters are represented by one party's dominated district's incumbent. Currently, 80% of the members of the House of Representatives are such incumbents. Both major parties erect harsh and costly barriers to hinder challenge and challengers from getting on the ballot. Petitioners garnering names to help get an independent or third-party candidate on the ballot are harassed on the streets, and fake names are signed to sabotage these efforts. Baseless lawsuits are filed by the major parties' large law firms to drain away the resources and time of small candidates. And then the cases come to court. The independent often finds a partisan judge known for political loyalty on the bench. Looking at the 2004 campaign of Ralph Nader, he experienced this and more. And his campaign manager, Teresa Amato, meticulously documented many of the outrages in her book, Grand Illusion: The Myth of Voter Choice in a Two-Party Tyranny. These myriad of barriers may be condemned as a violation of laws protecting civil rights and civil liberties, and they certainly derail proposed reforms and policy redirections that an independent candidate may offer to the voters. That critique is probably the liberal progressive take, or that is of liberals who are not silenced by going along with the least worst mindset. The parallel libertarian free market approach is taken by economics professor James Bennett of George Mason University. He sees a two-party duopoly protected and subsidized by the government it controls as a way to block any external competition and to make sure that no third party or independent candidate would even have a chance to compete and grow in strength over the span of successive elections. Bennett wants to abolish the subsidies to major parties and get rid of the ballot access barriers to entry and other tripping points. He approves of the words of progressive professor Theodore Lowy. It's time to deregulate American politics, letting it take whatever form it will. Bennett wants to close down the two-party controlled Federal Elections Commission. He doesn't even like the idea of organized parties, reminding us of many of the Founding Fathers' deep distaste for parties or characters of bickering self-interest, as they called them before they finally resigned themselves to the formation of parties. Bennett writes in his recent book, Stifling Political Competition, how government has rigged the system to benefit the Demopublicans and exclude third parties. In his book, he writes, John Adams was resigned to the existence of parties, but he stressed that they must not be permitted to plunder the treasury. So relevant today. All right. There is convergence here between the likes of Amato and Bennett, but it only goes so far because of disagreements over whether the state should or would referee and level the playing field in a reformed system. Teresa Amato thinks this is possible. Bennett believes the state will always be manipulated to serve the two-party duopoly. Now, via subsidies, exclusive debates, and the funding of the two major parties' conventions by taxpayers. Each side's view of the flaws in the current arrangement are good starts. But once again, liberals and conservatives have to drop their corporatist two-party allegiances and look straight at the reforms that are needed to give more choice for the voters in a competitive democracy. The convergent groups Citizen in Charge and Free and Equal are already at work on this objective. Working towards this goal might be much easier to commence at the community level, where the sense of fairness is greater among those in the national professional party circles and their acolytes. I'm David Sandbeck, running for Congress in Minnesota's 4th Congressional District. Thank you for your attention.